I have been tasked today to make a video essay for my English final. The least I can do is give you some wise and whimsical words that'll change your life. Grass, showers, going to bed at a normal bedtime, say 10:30, like a functioning member of society. Do those things scare you? You might have what we call a raging case of caffeine addiction and thinning hair at 20 while you try to program Hello World into your console. But how did it get to this point? Well, you're probably here because you're afraid of women. Little did you know, women are actually a big part of why computer programming is what it is today. Here I'm joined by my guest, Emmett Brickowski, as we bring you a brief history of women in computer programming. The binary system as we know it, with all its zeros and ones in full glory, has actually been around for hundreds of years, invented in 1679 by Gottfried Leibniz. This base 2 system introduced punch cards in 1804, the earliest version of the IBM computer card, used physically to program computers all the way up to the mid-1970s. Punch cards had a hole in them for true and no hole for false, much like Boolean values in modern-day programming. Punch cards were first used for looms to weave wefts over and under warps. Wefts is a really funny word for some reason, I don't know. 30 years later, Ada Lovelace, the first computer programmer, stepped forward with her revolutionary ideas that some try to discredit, probably because she's a woman. Society, am I right, Emmett? Lovelace took Charles Babbage's analytical engine, the successor to his difference engine, fancy smancy talk for big ass calculator, and created the first ever computer program to find a sequence of Bernoulli numbers. Now, Emmett, do you know what Bernoulli numbers are? Yeah, me neither. See, I tried to look it up, but I've been studying calculus all week for my final exam, and my brain is just fried, guys. But basically, her computer program was created by, get this, a series of punch cards, the same ones for the loom. She also suggested that Babbage's analytical engine could use numerical values to represent virtually anything, numbers, letters, music notes, you name it. The only issue with this in her computer program was that Babbage's analytical engine was never finished. A similar information translator to the binary system used A's and B's to be decoded into letters, except this was never used on computers because it was developed in 1605. However, this system did match up with the binary system rather perfectly, with the letters A through Z corresponding to how the numbers 0 to 26 are created in the binary system. This was the predecessor of the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, or as you programmers might know, the ASCII, where numeric values, obviously built from binary, represented any other bits of text data on computers. Ada Lovelace would have been proud. Emmett, let's say we fast forward 100 years, shall we? In 1945, women were dominating this fast-growing field, and despite being disrespected as refrigerator ladies, 6 women were the first full-time paid computer programmers, although they merely programmed with dials and switches, since COBOL, the first English-to-binary programming language, wasn't created until 1952 by Grace Hopper. Of course, around this time, the space race was just picking up speed, and one of the people on the team of programmers to send Apollo 11 to the moon was Margaret Hamilton. I'm like 73% sure Hamilton wasn't the team lead, like some sources say. I don't know. I was really tired when I put this together, and I do know she was the first programmer on the team, and she did help create a solution that kept Apollo from aborting this mission. Basically, 3 minutes before it was supposed to land, the systems were like overloading or something, but her genius created like a workaround months beforehand. Clearly, Hamilton is a legend and helped us get to the moon way faster. You probably recognize her from this famous image of her standing next to a stack of code as tall as her head. Or you probably recognize her from this Lego set, recreating said image. Yes, that is all the code used to send the spaceship to the moon. No, she didn't write it all herself. I feel like that's a common belief, or maybe I'm just incredibly dense. Also, I imagine most of that is like prior versions or test code or something. Either way, it's all really cool. I wonder if the conspiracy of the fake moon landing arose because some sexist person in the 70s during that women's rights movement saw a woman standing next to a huge stack of code and they're like, oh, this is woman propaganda. That's not real. Women aren't that smart. So, Emmett, why does any of this matter? Huh? Because sexism bad? Maybe? Obviously, it's important to realize just how talented women are and to stop masculinizing every single job market out there. The problem is programming has become way more male dominated as a result of personal computers in the 1980s. I guess after the women's rights movement in the 60s and 70s, men were like, screw it. I'll go hide behind the safety of my own personal computer. Maybe I'll even cyberbully women a little bit. We'll see. We'll see if I'm feeling a little freaky like that. But in all seriousness, it really was that individuality that caused the achievements of women to be overlooked. And since tech could be marketed to individuals now, tech companies with men in authority grew influence and aggressively marketed to, you guessed it, men. Thus, women were shadowed by this tech revolution, or if you're my English professor, women were shadowed by this zeitgeist. Oh yeah, up top, Emmett. So now the tech market was produced by men and consumed by men after decades of being produced by women. What's even crazier is why women dominated the market in the first place. At first I thought it was because men were like busy at war or in the mines, which is kind of true. This article I found on LinkedIn said women had made up the majority of the first programmers during the Second World War, and that women were recruited into these projects in large part because of the shortage of masculine labor during the war. While after the war, men worked with machines, the mainframes, and the hardware. Here's the kicker though, quote, this work required advanced mathematics knowledge, everything from spheroidal trigonometry to calculus to accounting to code breaking. It was perceived as non-intellectual and because women were doing it, largely unimportant. These women were actually called computers. End quote. Men made math sexist. God, do I wish calculus was a no-brainer though. I do like how this implies that men were either stupid or just didn't like to think. Before ChatGPT existed, we actually had a poor girl. Seriously though, it's insane that women achieve so much in programming, and then men come along and chalk it up to being boring and easy women's work. And then when they have something to gain, they steal it all and take the spotlight. Unfortunately, I don't have a girlfriend to do my calculus for me, so I have to wrap this up and go study. Thank you all very much. Peace out.